Welcome, welcome everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're joining us from today. My name is Leah Elias, and I am the manager of on-ramps here at Echoing Green. And I have the pleasure of working on Echoing Green's pipeline building initiatives to engage leaders and early stage social innovators such as yourselves. We are so thrilled you are joining us here today to learn about the Echoing Green Fellowship and our 2025 fellowship application. As a reminder, closed captioning is available, and we will be sharing a recording and transcription of this webinar after today's event. In our webinar today, with the help of a few of my colleagues, we will be looking at exactly what it means to be an Echoing Green Fellow and what a strong application can look like. First, we want to talk a little bit about who Echoing Green is. For more than 37 years, Echoing Green has tackled the world's biggest problems through our fellowship program. The Echoing Green Fellowship is designed for early stage social innovators with bold ideas for change. Through the fellowship, Echoing Green provides funding, training, and a robust network for fellows to build organizations that transforms communities and our world. All year, our team is engaging communities across the world to identify innovative leaders committed to creating change in their communities. We are investing deeply in fellows' leadership and visions for change, and we are always activating our ecosystem and community of powerful leaders and investors towards supporting our fellows. We are working with people who are changing systems and creating a world where all people have equal opportunity and resources to thrive. As some of you may know, the 2025 Echoing Green Fellowship application opens on Tuesday, September 17th. And today, you'll learn more about how you can take advantage of this opportunity. Through the webinar, you'll gain deeper insights into the Echoing Green Fellowship experience and learn more about who is eligible for the fellowship and how we select the fellows. We'll share examples of real application responses from some of our fellows so that you can see what we look for in a strong response. And at the end of our time together, we hope that you'll have more tools to build an application that best reflects your leadership, your organization, and vision. We will end today by answering a few live questions at the end of this webinar. If you have a general question related to the fellowship experience and its offerings, or the application process, you can use the Q&A box to submit your questions. While we won't be able to get to every question, we will do our best to address a few before the end of today's webinar. If you have questions that are specific to you, or if we don't get to your question, we are always available to answer questions at fellowship@echoinggreen.org after this webinar and throughout your journey as a social innovator. Now, I am thrilled to introduce my lovely teammates joining us in today's conversation, Dr. Ricardo Jara, Senior Director of Community at Echoing Green, and Alex Pan, Senior Director of Capital. Hey, Ricardo, can you tell us a little bit about what it means to be an Echoing Green Fellow?
I absolutely could, Leah. What a really great and wonderful way to begin our time together. Thank you, Leah, for opening up the space. Good morning, everyone. My name is Dr. Ricardo Jara, and I so proudly lead our community building work in support of our entire global fellow community, as Echoing Green's Senior Director of Community. Just a little bit about me before we dig even deeper. I am an incredibly proud child of Mexican immigrants, born and raised in Los Angeles, California. And I've spent most of my career serving Black and Brown communities as an educator and servant leader, working alongside families to achieve liberation through education. I'm an educator through and through. It has been an immense honor to bring these experiences to the Echoing Green community, and it has been a joy to work with an incredible team like Leah and Alex, who you will get to know in just a second, to find and support innovative leaders like you. So for the next few minutes, I'll share insight into the Echoing Green Fellowship experience and some of our offerings. At Echoing Green, our entire programs team supports our fellows from the moment of acceptance throughout the 18-month fellowship and beyond as an alumni. Our programming is designed to mobilize the power, the wisdom, and the many resources that exist within our expansive ecosystem of fellows and organizational partners. We offer all fellows resources and opportunities that build capital, capacity, and community. So at a high level, fellows receive 100,000 US dollar stipend over the 18 months of their fellowship to support them as they advance their work. And once the fellowship ends, we offer additional grant opportunities of up to 100,000 US dollars to support our alumni to sustain their impact. When we think about capacity building, we think about it really in three ways. Leadership development to sharpen essential skills needed as early stage entrepreneurs and leaders. Organizational design to strengthen core strategic and operational elements of your organization. And spiritual well-being to tend to the whole leader, not just the side of you that is blazing new trails. And finally, we offer community. Our newest fellows make up a cohort of leaders who experience the fellowship and entrepreneur journey together. Fellows also join in a community that includes a powerful alumni network of social innovators literally around the world, and a dedicated support system of Echo and Green staff, funders, and organizational partners. As new fellows, you will experience our virtual 18-month New Fellow Experience program designed to strengthen your leadership and build community. In our leadership workshops, we'll explore fellow-centered topics focused on early-stage leader must-haves in leadership development and strengthening organizational design, including topics like strategic planning, measuring impact, building effective teams, capital readiness, and much, much more. We'll also have consistent opportunities to nurture connections, and we ensure fellows gather with the intention of deepening fellow-to-fellow connections within the cohort and across the community. Community truly is a defining element of the overall fellow experience, because it is in community where we will continue to build a growing movement of social innovators. And finally, through community mentorship, you'll have the opportunity to work one-on-one with a fellow alumni mentor from the vast fellow community to support you on your continued growth as a leader. However, your Echo and Green journey doesn't end when you complete the New Fellow Experience program. As alumni, you join a global network of nearly 1,000 social innovative leaders across the globe. And to keep us all connected, we empower alumni to create and join affinity groups, which bring together fellows with shared identities, issue areas, or geographic ties to hold community conversations, strengthen support networks, and exchange best practices, but really just to be in community with one another. And throughout all of this, we center wellness and well-being in a variety of ways, including direct access to our secular chaplaincy program, really one of its kind, which is an on-demand, confidential, one-on-one service that creates a space for fellows to share their triumphs and challenges with the secular chaplain, both in and outside of the context of the organization. It really is this powerful therapeutic experience, really. Whew, that was a lot of great stuff. And I want to close with one of the most amazing and beautiful aspects of the fellowship and this community. And it's this. Here at Echo and Green, we have a steadfast belief that once a fellow, always a fellow. And because of this, you have access to our support services from the time you are selected as a fellow and beyond. And equally important, this belief and expression is a call to action to our fellows to remain active and connected in the community. And it's truly a call that many fellows joyfully answer. Now, we know what you must be thinking. How do I get in on this? And to help you better understand our application process, I'm happy to welcome my fellow Echo and Green teammate, Alex Pan, Senior Director of Capital. Alex, what is the scoop? How can our great leaders who are joining us today get in on this fellowship? And what do we look for?
Yeah, thank you, Ricardo. Just listening to you kind of talk about what the fellowship entails kind of made me wonder, how can I get on this? It's super exciting. Unfortunately, I am ineligible to apply because I work here, but I'm happy to tell you all a little bit more about how you can apply and what we look for in our applications. Before we get into that, just wanted to introduce myself. My name is Alex Pan. I'm the Senior Director of Capital at Echoing Green. We focus on building equity-centered selection processes to identify visionary social innovators from around the world. I was born and raised here in the Bay Area in California and currently live in the beautiful city of Oakland. I have a 2-year-old boy that I spend most of my free time chasing around the house. And when I'm not doing that, love getting outdoors and enjoying all the great stuff there is to do around here in California. Um, all right, so let's go into it. What are we looking for here at Echoing Green? So I want to share some of our eligibility requirements. You can find these on the slides. You can also find these online on our website. And hopefully most of these are fairly self-explanatory, but I do want to address some of the common questions we get on these requirements. The first is about what it means to be early stage. And unfortunately, there's not a concrete definition here because growth curves of different social innovators can look super different. But our intention here is really to support social innovators at the very earliest stages of their social innovation journey. We believe this is a critical stage as innovators are typically at their most creative. The ideas are often at their most fragile points. And the work, importantly, is most vulnerable to suppression by the status quo. And that's why we need to jump in here. And our goal is to safeguard this sacred stage for social innovators to ensure a steady flow of social innovation into society. So in practice, what this means is that we invest in leaders who have an innovative idea, but nothing really in place yet. We support innovators who have begun to build and test their ideas in the market or in their communities. And we also support innovators who are building and refining the fundamentals of their organization. But if your model is fairly well established and now your main challenge is scaling and replicating your work to new geographies, to new markets, then maybe your work might be too far along to be a great fit for what we do at Echoing Green. So hopefully that provides some context for what we mean by early stage. I want to jump down now to kind of original idea. So the organization must be your original idea, and only one person per organization can apply. If your organization has multiple co-founders, we suggest you review the criteria and decide amongst yourselves who is the best fit for a program. And that one person should apply on behalf of your idea or organization. To be eligible for the fellowship, you also need to be the sole founder or a leading founder of the team of people who created the organization. Someone who takes over an existing organization is not eligible to apply, and co-founders are not eligible to apply jointly. Only one application per organization can and will be considered. To begin to understand how we select our fellows, it's helpful to understand Echoing Green's vision for change. And to paraphrase from our strategic plan, Echoing Green seeks to support visionary social innovators who are transforming unjust systems around the world. So embedded in that statement are kind of two key concepts that guide our selection process. One, we are looking for leaders, and two, we're looking for big ideas. And so as we move on to the next slide, you'll see that these concepts are at the core of how we evaluate applications. So the first is we evaluate leadership. And to stand out as a leader, your application should highlight the following things. The first is your leadership qualities. We're looking for leaders that have the ability to make big changes in the world. And this means that we want to see how you create partnerships, build movements, find resources, and move people towards strategic goals. Next, we are looking for your purpose alignment. And we want you to show us why this issue is important to you specifically, and tell us how your experiences have molded you into the right leader to solve this problem and work on the issue for the long haul. Finally, we're looking for proximity. And so show us why you're the best person to solve your chosen issue. And we want to see specifically how you co-design your solution with your community and involve the community in kind of the decisions of your organization. So that's the leader criteria. The next thing that we evaluate is your idea. We evaluate your idea based on its innovation, its ability to change systems, and the degree to which the idea is centered in equity, and equity is centered in its vision for change. So, for innovation, tell us how your idea will bring about meaningful change. And we want to see how you find new approaches and how your approach differs from other solutions. For changing systems, we seek leaders who understand the forms of power and the systems of oppression that influence the issue they are addressing, and design solutions that focus on the root cause of these systemic inequities. Finally, for equity-centered, Echoing Green looks for ideas that have an explicit and intentional focus on dismantling unjust systems and creating a future where communities around the world have equitable opportunity to thrive. All right, so to help explain our selection criteria in a different way, we're going to share some examples of application responses from past fellows. And so Leah will get us started in unpacking some of these examples. Leah, over to you.
Thanks, Alex. I just want to say that I know folks really appreciate being able to see exactly what we're looking for when we review applications. And we've already answered kind of a few of the questions that we're getting here. As a reminder, continue to drop your questions in the chat and we'll be answering a few live later. But thank you again, Alex, for laying it all out. Now it's time for us to look at some real application responses from Echoing Green Fellows. At Echoing Green, we get a ton of questions about what does a good application look like? And so we want to take a few minutes to share with you some application responses from recent fellows that show the kind of clear, direct, and strong responses that define our fellows and best showcase their leadership and ideas. We get the most questions around how to better demonstrate innovation, systems change, and proximity in an application. So in a few minutes, we're going to share examples from 3 current fellows: Bernadette Lim of Freedom Community Clinic, Nia Hutiri of Pellobox, and Jigyasa Labru of Slam Out Loud. Using these 3 fellows as examples, we are going to look at a few questions that are on the application. These specific questions are a bit more nuanced, so we'll give you some tips on what a successful answer can look like. But please note their entire response will be made available on our website as well. And remember, again, if you have any questions about what we share or anything we're about to share, you can drop them in the Q&A box. The first question we'll look at is around innovation. In this question, we don't just want to know what your innovation is, but we want to know how it builds upon existing models and demonstrates innovation in your specific geography or sector. Bernadette's work with Freedom Community Clinic is reimagining healthcare by creating affordable community clinics that blend ancestral and holistic practices with Western healing approaches. Again, we'll share the link to Bernadette's full response on our website shortly. But first, we want to highlight exactly what Bernadette did well so that you too are able to clearly demonstrate how your work is new and innovative. Bernadette's response shows why the current healthcare system isn't working and how she is challenging the system to be better. Her response also makes clear that her idea represents a unique approach and gives specific examples of how she's challenging the existing status quo in the medical system. And lastly, her work describes how it will create a better future and contribute to a coalition of organizations working to improve the healthcare system. For each question on the application, we want you to detail your solution and show what makes your solution unique in your specific industry, community, or location. I encourage you to review Bernadette's full response on our website to see exactly how she showcased her innovation and which of these techniques might be helpful to you in clearly communicating innovation. My colleague will drop the link in the chat again shortly. Ricardo, can you talk to us a bit about the next question on our application and Nia Hutiri?
I absolutely could, Leah. Thank you so much. Our next application question we want to spotlight is about systems change. Systems change can seem big, messy, and complex, and it is. However, this question really is an opportunity for you to show us how your proposed solution can directly impact lives, change a community's future, or change systems. And one strong illustration of system change comes from NEO, whose organization in South Africa, Pellobox, creates inclusive, affordable, and high-quality healthcare for Black patients by making it simple and quick for patients to retrieve medications for their chronic illnesses. And when we look at NEO's response, it not only names the issue, Patients not taking their medicine for chronic illness is not about the lack of treatment, but also the root cause behind the issue is people lack convenient access to their medication. His response also specifies exactly how his innovation was addressing the root issue of people lacking access to their medication. It uses data to show how his innovation influences and impacts the system, creates inclusive, affordable, high-quality healthcare for Black patients in South Africa. And finally, the response, it identifies the Ministry of Health as a key power influencing the issue and patients as key in implementing the solution. Now, we want to acknowledge that different countries, cultures, languages, and communities speak about system change in different ways. And fellows from the US, South Africa, India, and all around the world bring their own lived experience and context of equity to our fellowship with their innovative systems changing solutions. So please use this question as an opportunity to showcase how you are leading lasting systems level change in your community. Okay, Alex, what's our next and final spotlight for these application questions?
Yeah, thanks, Ricardo. We're gonna jump to a question on proximity. So Echoing Green looks for leaders who are closest to the community they serve, with ideas and perspectives to make the greatest impact. So here we want you to describe how you shift power to the community and engage the community in the design of your solution and the decision-making of your work. So here we're looking at Jigyasa's response, and this stands out to us because she demonstrates how she has earned proximity to the community she serves and how our organization Slam Out Loud actively involves the most impacted community members in important organization-wide decisions. Her response clearly describes her relationship to the community and provides several examples of how she has gained proximity to this community. It demonstrates how she proactively involves students and parents who are most impacted by Slam Out Loud's work in the strategic design of her solution, and outlines how her leadership shifts power back to students by co-designing the solutions with them and ensuring that solution is accessible to 4.7 million other children and other organizations. You can find Bernadette, Neo, and Jigyasa's full responses on our website to get a fuller understanding of how they answer these questions. And my colleague will drop that link in the chat again. So hopefully you can review that all there. Before we hand things over to Q&A, I just wanted to cover a few notes on our timeline. So applications open in 5 days, which is super soon, on September 17th. So we encourage you to start early and prepare with materials that are on our website now, including kind of a full list of our application questions. So you can start as early as now if you want. On October 8th, all applications are due, and our portal will close at 2 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. No exceptions, no extensions will be permitted, so please do make sure you get your applications in by that time. Between October and April, our team will undergo an extensive review process where staff, fellow alumni, and partners from across the globe will review your application. And we'll reach out to those who will move to the next stage in the process, which is interviews. And so in April, we'll interview all of our finalists. And finally, we'll notify the new class of fellows next June. All right, so that's it from me for now. I will hand things back over to Leah, who can guide us through some Q&A.
Thanks, Alex. Are we ready for some questions, y'all? I see we have a lot of questions in the Q&A. Thank you everyone for your time so far. Alex, Ricardo, and I will do our best to answer some of these questions. And as a reminder, if we don't get to answer your question today, please check out our website for more information. Feel free to email the fellowship inbox after the webinar. So I'm seeing a few questions come in from folks about organizations and companies who haven't officially formed yet or started implementing just yet. Someone asked, what if I haven't started my organization? Does the stage of my idea or organization factor into who becomes a fellow? So the answer is we are investing in fellows at varying stages. We have some fellows who are at the idea stage, meaning they're still creating and working on their solution. We have some fellows who know what their solution is and are in the stage and in the process of testing it. And we have some fellows who might have been operating for a few years with a few staff members, but still have room to refine and grow their solution. We evaluate your application solely on based on the selection criteria we shared earlier, and operating stage is not a part of that criteria. Okay, Alex, do you want to take our next question?
Sure. So I'm seeing actually a bunch of questions kind of around what issue area or focus area or sector we care about here at Echoing Green and where we prioritize. The short answer is that we are agnostic. So we're agnostic to the issue, the location, the industry, meaning that we can kind of fund individuals and ideas regardless of the chosen issue or the country that you're based in. What we're looking for is finding the next generation of innovators who are going to make a bold difference in the world and change systems and get at all that stuff that we're talking about in that idea and leader category. So this means that for-profits, nonprofits, hybrid organizations are welcome to apply. You don't even have to have started your organization yet. That can be an open question for you. And so, we encourage all folks to apply. One note here is that the purpose of your organization, the impact, the social kind of change that you're looking to see should be the primary focus of your work. And shouldn't just be like a side effect of doing business. And so we're really looking for that intentionality, and that impact is centered in why your work exists. I'll stop there. Ricardo, do you see a question that you might want to address?
Yeah, thanks, Alex. Yeah, I was happy to take this next question that I see here. I see a number of questions around how we define success. So how does Echoing Green measure the impact and success of fellows and their organizations? That's a good one. And I think it's really important to name that we want to support every Echoing Green fellow to reach breakthrough success with their idea as they define it. So for some of our fellows, we celebrate them being able to make their first hire. For some, it's being able to expand their offerings to new communities in a new city. For some, it looks like leaving their organizations in the hands of the next great leader. Truly, truly, our fellows' work is so broad and rapidly evolving that success looks different for each fellow, and we truly celebrate that. That was a really, really good question. Alex, I want to kick it back to you for this next group of questions that I see here.
Yeah, thanks, Ricardo. So there's been a bunch of questions about folks who have applied in the past, and is there a limit to how many times you can apply? Do I still have a chance of getting it if I've been not awarded the fellowship in the past? So the quick answer is yes, you can absolutely reapply. There's no cap on the number of times you can apply for the Echoing Green Fellowship. We unfortunately can't provide very detailed feedback to all of our previous applicants. And so we can't tell you specifically how likely you are to receive it in the future. But what you should know is that most of the fellows who do receive the fellowship have applied 2 or more times by the time that they actually receive the fellowship. So, persistence here is often rewarded. And so would encourage you all to continue to apply as long as you meet the selection criteria and you feel like your work is aligned to kind of the general ethos and spirit of what we're looking for at Echoing Green. One other nuance here is that some candidates might be working on multiple projects. And so while you can apply with a different project each cycle, we can only consider one project per applicant per cycle. So if you have a lot of different things going on, we would encourage you to pick the one that you feel is most aligned with Echoing Green, or the one that you feel like you can most easily or want to dedicate a full-time kind of work schedule to, and apply with that project. Great. Leah, let's kick it over to you. Are any questions that you're seeing that you want to respond to?
Yeah, we're getting a lot of questions around the time commitment for the fellowship and kind of the logistics of it. So what is the expected time commitment for the fellowship? And someone else asked, can I still work or be in school during the fellowship? So the fellowship takes place over 18 months. And if you receive the fellowship, we do expect you to work on it full time, meaning that it should be your primary work once the fellowship starts in July of 2025. But you do not currently have to be working on your idea full time. Fellows are expected to commit full time to their idea and the fellowship. Fellows attend monthly virtual cohort new fellow experience sessions that start again in the fall of 2025. The specifics of those session dates and times are shared with fellows upon acceptance. If you are currently in school, we encourage you to think about whether you will have the time once the fellowship starts to truly pursue this work full time and attend those new fellow experience sessions. But again, the fellowship takes place over 18 months, and the expectation is that it would be your primary work during this time. Ricardo, folks are curious about how they can learn more about fellows. Do you want to answer a little bit about these group of questions?
Yeah. Thanks, Leah. Yeah, there seems to be an eagerness to know more about the fellows, specifically if there's any way to get in contact with some of our fellows and past alumni, which makes sense as you're putting together your application. Full transparency, y'all, given how busy our fellows are, we aren't able to share their direct contact information. However, we are always happy to share more information about our fellows and the work they do. You can actually find the full list of our fellows, their countries and organizations, their issue areas that they're focusing on our website. And you could use that as a really helpful guide around the diverse range of leaders and organizations that we support here at Echoing Green. Truly, we encourage you to learn more about them. And my teammate Juana will drop the link in the chat shortly so you have access to that directory so you can check it out. Alex, I see quite a few questions around acceptances and the number of acceptances for the next cohort, the odds. What's the scoop?
It's the question that's on all your minds, I'm sure. And I am happy to share some details there in just a second, but I kind of want to pause and make sure that none of you self-select out of this application process because you don't think you have a shot. I think what's really important to cover here is that, our data from the ecosystem shows that proximate leaders and marginalized social innovators are often more likely to self-select out of these types of applications because they see it as very competitive. They don't think that they are worthy of the support. And that's kind of goes against the whole point of why we're doing this. We want to identify and uplift those types of marginalized founders and proximate social innovators. So please don't let the numbers that I'll share with you in a second scare you away. And I also used the word competitive earlier, which is the wrong word. I don't want you all to feel like you are in competition with anyone else on this call. As Ricardo mentioned, as Leah mentioned, our goal at Echoing Green is to support a movement of social innovators. And to do that, we all need you all to collaborate with each other and lift each other up and not see each other as competition. So please take what I'm about to say with that grain of salt. Okay, so where are we? How many fellows do we select? In our past cohort, we selected 44 fellows from over 2,000 applications. And this year, we're targeting 32 fellows and would anticipate around the same number of applications again. So it is unfortunate that we received far more applications than we're able to support. But please do apply. We want you all to apply, and we don't want you to self-select out because you don't think you have a shot of getting the fellowship, because you do. And we talk to fellows every year who felt the way that you feel right now, who end up getting the fellowship, and they go on to do great things. So please don't see yourself as not part of this.
Yeah, Alex, I really appreciate that pause and just reminder for folks who are doubting you yourself as leaders, right? And this opportunity. And what comes to mind is a constant reminder I try to center in those moments of uncertainty and doubt. And that is, if not you, then who? And if not now, then when, right? So please, please, please apply. If you feel so moved, do it. And actually, Alex, can we just stay on you for 1 second? Because I'm looking at this next batch of question that's related a bit. I see questions here. Well, let me read it to you. Someone is asking, who can't apply? And what applicants or characteristics of applicants do you not accept?
Yeah, no, thanks, Ricardo. I think I would start by just pointing you back to the eligibility requirements. That is a fairly exhaustive list of requirements. And if it's not covered there, you are eligible to apply. But I guess I can address a few kind of common points of confusion that a few people bring up. So the first is around lobbying. We often get people who are confused about what does lobbying mean. So we are not able to accept applicants whose ideas represent lobbying groups, promote specific political candidates or specific political parties, or kind of specific action on legislature or kind of bills that may or may not be passed. And so I think an important note here is that lobbying as a term is often used differently in different contexts around the world and has a specific connotation here in the United States. And so, many of our fellows absolutely engage in policy advocacy and community organizing, and that is, of course, allowed and encouraged and part of social change. But what we cannot fund are entities that are officially registered legally as lobbying organizations or have official political kind of affiliations. The other big kind of eligibility flag that comes up for us is around religious affiliation. And so we cannot fund organizations that are involved in recruiting, promoting conversion to a specific religious faith. But this does not mean that faith cannot be a core part of your work, and does not mean that you cannot focus on uplifting a marginalized faith or religious community in your community geography. But we cannot fund work where proselytization, I guess, or conversion is part of the mission. And finally, we do not fund organizations who have had full-time staff for more than 5 years is kind of the cutoff there. And so we are looking for, like I said earlier, early stage organizations. And so if you have hired full-time staff and have had that on for about 5 years or more, that is likely kind of a flag for us. So I'll stop there. And Leah, do you see anything else that we should address?
Yeah, we have time for a few more questions. Thank you, Alex, for answering the question kind of around who do we select and who are we not necessarily selecting. Those are quite common questions that we get. I'm also seeing a lot of questions from folks about some more tips on the application. If you were applying to the Echoing Green Fellowship for the first time, what are kind of some things that we would encourage you prioritize or put the most effort into? So in addition to kind of all the things that we shared about our criteria and what Echoing Green is looking for, I'd also give 3 more tips. One, I'd encourage you to show us why you care and why the work that you are kind of focusing on and proposing in your application is important to you. We want to know why it's important to you, why you care, and why you're the best person to drive that innovation forward. That's kind of first. The second thing that I would encourage folks to focus on prioritizing your application responses is how you meet the criteria showing how you meet the criteria with specific examples and details. When you take a look at some of the sample fellow questions and answers on our website, you'll see that a lot of those fellows are sharing really specific details about their innovation, their work, their relationship to the community. And I'd encourage you all to push back on repeating the criteria in your response. For example, sometimes we say things like, my work is innovative. We want to see things like, my work does X, Y, and Z differently for the first time in my city, or my work is doing X, Y, and Z differently because of this different reason. Show us kind of what is the specific reason or kind of a difference that your work is making in your specific community, location, industry. And lastly, I just encourage you to write as clearly and concisely as possible. Writing more doesn't necessarily equate to a better answer. And so I'd encourage you before kind of when writing your responses to make sure that you're responding as clearly as possible and answering the question as completely as possible. That is more important than kind of filling up the response page. And lastly, for each question on the application, we again want to remind you to address all parts of the question and to remember the tips that we've shared around setting context, whether that be historical, social, or political. You should describe your approach really in detail and provide specific examples as much as possible. So those are all the questions that we have time for today. Thank you again, everyone, for asking them. While we couldn't get to all of our questions today, we hope that some of these answers were helpful. As a reminder, the resources we've provided on our website are there to support and guide you in the application process. And again, we are here and ready and available to answer any questions that you might have at fellowship@echoinggreen.org. And with that said, our time together today is coming to an end. We hope you are all excited to apply to the fellowship after this webinar. Here are those important dates again. Finalists will be notified in April of 2025. So just want to clarify that. Applications are due on October 8th, and Echoing Green will be reaching back out to you about your application, and finalists will be notified in April of 2025 about interviews. And in June of 2025, fellows will be notified of decisions. Again, we look forward to receiving your applications in the coming weeks. Thank you again, everyone, for joining us today. And a huge thank you to the Echoing Green Programs and Events team for helping put on today's event. If you have additional questions, please visit Echoing Green's website. And again, you can always reach us and my colleagues here, Alex and Ricardo, and the rest of the Echoing Green team at fellowship@echoinggreen.org. Thank you and goodbye.